Hello, everyone. Welcome to Brenda and Sandy's Friday morning chats. We're here with another information-packed session, and we're going to talk about deception, distortion, discernment, and mocking during these insane times that we're living in. And we've had a few conversations about this. It's come up a little bit. So how are you doing today, Brenda?
I'm doing very well, Sandy. And you?
I'm doing fantastic. Lots going on, lots of energies moving and shifting, a lot of people jockeying for position. And when I say that, to jockey for position, if they have no real power, they got to play a lot of head games on you. So that's why we're kind of sort of talking about these conversations. And it's wild watching, everybody does it the same way, but they use the same techniques, but different words. So first, so I'll give an example. First, this one fellow befriends me on a social media platform, says, hey, do you notice so-and-so's missing? Okay, thanks. Didn't know, talked to a few people. Then he comes back and tries to take over the channel. And we're like, no, you can't say these things. You can't verify these things. So then he turns around and starts shaming me. You know, you shouldn't do your research. And I'm like, buddy, you're not my first fucking rodeo. And then he turns around and starts telling me I'm threatening him because I said, we're going to take your messages off, or we're going to just remove you from the channel if you keep this up. And because we had been made admin on this channel, and he starts insulting us as admin. And it's like, buddy. So I go through it, and it's funny. It doesn't mean anything. It's just information, but you watch them go through all these little things. They try to shame you. They try to guilt you. They try to make you feel bad about yourself. They try to put you down, all to get ahead. This is what the true mental illness is in our society. It's a personality disorder. These people are fucked. But you got to watch, because if you don't let them screw you, then they're really going to screw you, and they come off like a Kathy Bates. So you got to block them so they can't find you. And people say, why are you out here? Because this shit needs to stop. It's everywhere in the system. It's in the police systems. It's in the school systems. It's in you name it, the court system, the family court. It's absolutely everywhere. Children's aid societies, all these games are the same. Torment, mocking. Right? Whenever you watch any of those crazy movies with Clint Eastwood, and they had the real crazy people, they would sit and torment as they're hurting and torturing their victims, right? But if you go to hurt them, then they start crying, and then they become the victim. So these are sociopaths, psychopaths, narcissists, doesn't matter, shame-based people, bystanders, enablers, it doesn't matter. They're dysfunctional. They have personality disorders. So anyways, I just wanted to set the tone with that about what we're going to be talking about today. You had some really good examples yesterday when we were talking about like some of the distortions and how they're like the games that are played. Is there anything that comes to mind that you want to share?
Well, you know, it's so interesting because they really do work the duality here. They work the polarity, but they really do work the duality, because they know that this is the world we're living in, right? This is really a third density experience. So that's what duality brings, or that's what brings duality rather. But I just see this constant back and forth going on, you know, and just like you said, they're mocking everybody. They're mocking God, they're mocking us, they're mocking everything. And
everything that's good.
Anything that's good, natural,
yes.
Pure, innocent, right? All of that stuff. And they're totally turning it around on everybody. And that's the inversion, right? Like that's the whole point to this. That's what
yes.
they've done. They've taken this whole planet and turned it inside out and upside down. And really, unless we know that, we don't know any different, right? We just don't know any different. So we end up getting caught in these bloody scenarios that go on, and it's everywhere. It's rampant. I don't even know where to begin today, because I'm like, there's so much deception. There's so much in distortion, right? Like everything is being swayed a little bit, just enough to throw you off the course. Just enough.
And when you say that, it's interesting, because what I started doing, this is almost, I guess it's almost 10 years ago, like a few months shy of 10 years ago, I started writing emails because I knew things were off. And I'm like, why does abuse happen so much in our society? And I'm writing these emails and they're blowing me off. And I know I've said this before, and it's when I started realizing that it was intentional, boom, that's when the light switch went off in my head. I didn't have everything sorted out then, but I knew that wasn't the right response to what I had written. So it's funny. So sometimes now, even when I'm watching, if I'm over the target, somebody starts pretending they don't understand what I'm saying and taking everything I say out of context, so they can turn it back on me. And I'm like, buddy, you're a sociopath. That's what they do. And it's funny because the sociopaths and the sociopaths will hurt you emotionally. Narcissists will physically kill you. But they say not narcissists, psychopaths will physically kill you. But they say the narcissist is the abuser. No, the narcissist loves himself. because they don't want to say that they're a psychopath, because then they know they would hurt somebody and there's a personality defect going on. So they minimize their label by calling it a narcissist instead of a psychopath or a sociopath. When I figured that one out, I thought that was rather amusing, because they can't say anything bad about themselves, because it goes against their arrogant, grandiose opinion of themselves. I'm just a narcissist who will kill you. No, buddy, you're a psychopath. So you know why you don't tell psychopaths or psychopaths? Because they will kill you. They don't like that. They don't like to be shown their flaws. So if you're going to call them that, you got half a second to know whether you're going to, survive that event or not. I only ever did it once, and that look in that person's eyes were so I'm going to say sincere, but sinister. It was, I'm going to kill you. And it's like, okay, I don't do that anymore. I just talk about them out here and in general, right? It seems to be a lot safer that way. But we realize now, this is what the dysfunction in society is in the Satanism. How far will you go to hurt somebody else to get ahead financially? With power, so money, power, and sex. How far will you go to get ahead? And what I found is nobody minds being a son of a bitch. Most people don't mind being a son of a bitch, but they don't like is when you can articulate that they're a son of a bitch, and you can explain how, and you can explain what their personalities are missing. They can't handle the accountability on it, right? So
Accountability right there.
they can't handle it. So that's what the imbalance of power. So you call it a duality, and I refer to it as an imbalance. It doesn't matter. We're saying variations of the same thing, right? But it's that imbalance of power, that somebody has to take power away from somebody else to steam their own engine. And it's like, don't you get bored?
And they don't.
They don't.
They just find new ways to do it.
Right?
They do.
So it's interesting. I have found a report, and it's I think I talked to you about this maybe, I don't know if it was last time or the time before, and it shows 1.5 pages of all the school shootings around the world were caused by people teens coming off of mental health drugs, like antidepressants. So then I find another article that says that the pharmaceutical drugs made you homicidal or suicidal. Gee, I wonder what's in those shots.
Holy crap. I mean, honestly, they've been working on us for a long time. Once the pharmaceutical business started up, they were just like kids in a candy store. Everywhere they turned, they could just shove this shit in there, and that shit into there, poison us this way, get us that way. They've been hard at it for about 75 or 80 years now, consistently.
It's interesting you say that. I read a book, a man, I can't remember what the name of his book was, but he said back in the 30s, that's when the pharmaceuticals started. And basically any of the shamans or anybody who used plant-based medicine, they made it illegal. You would go to jail if you were a medicine man.
That's right. Because Rockefellers took over the medical industry, right? Rockefeller started their own medicine schools. And when they did that, anything homeopathic, naturopathic, allopathic was gone. You just were demonized, and it was made illegal, just like marijuana. That's the thing. Marijuana at one point was in everything. Cannabis was in everything they give you as a pharmaceutical aid or of some kind. And at one point, farmers had to have, what was it, an acre, one plant of hemp per every acre they farmed, because hemp was so important to have, right? There's so much usage in hemp. And so they, of course, they made it all illegal so that anybody doing that, cannabis or planting hemp and stuff like that, you were outlawed, totally outlawed. And they didn't want you. It's interesting. And I'm just going to throw this out here just because, they talk about cannabis and marijuana being a gateway drug. You know why they teach people that? Because it's a gateway to your spirituality and to your higher consciousness. And they don't want anybody getting there. I'm not saying it's the only way. Shit is not the only way there, but it is certainly a very effective, we'll say, way, right? That's why people have these wild experiences, insight that comes to them and stuff like that when they're smoking pot. It's because, and it opens you up, right? Like there's a huge benefit to it in a lot of ways. And they didn't like that either. That just gave people power back and told them that they didn't need anything outside of themselves, even pot, to get to where they needed to go. Just this whole thing.
So it's interesting. It's interesting you're saying that, because now look at Ontario, people are figuring it out that pot is, who was it? Max Egan says humans are endocannabis systems, what he calls it. So it'd be interesting to hear more about what he has to say about this. So it's tying in with what you're saying. But now in Ontario and I think it's all of Canada, pot's legal only if you buy the government pot that you pretty sure they spray the shit out of that and put chemicals on that to poison you too, right? So it's like this whole system has to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, again, there's so many medical benefits to it, stuff like that. They don't want anybody benefiting from anything they don't sanction themselves. That's
Totally.
it.
So this is why they all have to go.
Sorry?
This is why they all have to go, right?
Absolutely.
So I have a friend served notice on Peel Chief of Police in the Peel Police Department. She sent an email yesterday and registered mail. 11:30 last night, 2 cops knock on her door and she opened the door and she had a chain on it. One cop sticks his foot in right away so she can't close the door. You arrogant fucks. The people who work in the system, you are the criminals, you are the psychopaths, you are the sociopaths. Not everybody is. But to think that you can go to somebody's house at 11:30 at night to scare her, to catch her when she's sleeping, catch her off guard. This is the unfair advantage they need. So she did not let them in. She told them to get the foot out of the door. They did leave, but then she says 2 more come back this morning, but they're in plain clothes today. All because she served notice on the Chief of Police appeal. So it's going to be interesting to see. What's that?
I'd be taking those cops' pictures. You want to intimidate?
She didn't last night, but she might have today. So, but my point is, who do these police think they are? Like we all know they're pedophiles. We all know they're criminals. We all know that they've got money laundering schemes going. And you can just go and take her daughter away and then destroy her life. And then when she's telling me this, she said, not 10 minutes later, her employer calls and says, call us right away. So they've got all the levers and all the checks and all the balances in their favor to run a corrupt little system called Canada or Ontario or Peel region or what have you, right? So it's kind of funny. And then what do they do on top of all that? They turn around and say, you got mental illness. And we've talked about this one before, but this is funny. Can you see the big, is that in the full picture? Okay. Yep. So the conspiracy chart. So if you talk about anything like QAnon, Deep State, the Great Replacement, Pizzagate, George Soros, who else have we got in here? Bill Gates, depopulation, Holocaust, you're a Holocaust denier, Jacera Nacera. And if you look at this little circle to the side of it, it tells you you're a danger to yourself and others. So what do you want to bet? This is what they're teaching some of these people, some of these officers, that, oh, this isn't real. People are crazy if they have a belief in any of these things. This is how organized these people are to cause pain and suffering for anybody who stands up for themselves. And I think we need to get to the point that we are just so sick of their lies and their manipulations. And when you talked about the Rothschilds, schools of medicine, I think the Rothschilds run all the universities, and that's why we have so many fucked up people.
Yeah, Rockefellers and the Rothschilds, right? They're the ones. The Gambles, the friggin' Bushes, you name it, they're all in there. There's like 13 families and they all have a bloodline coming through. Rockefellers, Rothschilds, that's just the tip of the iceberg, really, right? Yeah. Soros and Gates and all them guys are just minions. They're part of the minions, but they've got power because they've been inducted into that pyramid, right? And the rest of us are all just serfs.
You're just served. So they think, right? So it's really interesting when we look at, and then if you stand up or they torment you, they laugh at you in your face. This is the side of humanity that's ugly. This is the side that has no heart and soul. This is the side that will hurt somebody else just to give themselves a little bit of power. And you wonder, why are these people so personality deficient that they can't be decent just because it's just the right thing to do. They can't discern what is the right thing to do because they have to get that fix of hurting somebody to get their emotional fix.
Yeah, I don't think they have souls the way we have souls. They wouldn't. If they had souls the way we have souls, they would have compassion and empathy, and they wouldn't be able to do that. You know, they don't have souls the way we have souls. They have a deficient soul, as far as I can tell.
You know what? I would agree on that, but I don't. Some people think the Rockians or clones or what do you call it? Aliens or demons or whatever. I don't think so. I think the human is the highest consciousness. We either let those things in or not. I'm not saying those things don't exist. I don't go down that road because it just opens up a door that I don't want to. I don't care to sit and talk about. But we've got to start looking at this, and humans have to start owning their shit and be accountable for their own actions right across the board, right? I can't wait for this financial system to fall. I'm hearing so much more is happening, that the things are coming into play. I think this is happening in Ukraine and in Russia. So Putin has his own bank. He got rid of the Rothschild central bank. He got rid of their internet this week. So he's got his own internet system. So, and he's got his own cash system. So I think they're rolling out the Jacera and Nasera, and they're going to start in Russia. And that's why all of a sudden everybody's trashing Russia. So it's pretty funny watching. It's funny watching who falls for it. It's funny watching who's trying to shame other people for not falling for it. Like, it's insane.
So let's speak for a second about that, and in terms of deception and distortion, because I've found so many people who don't know the real truth of what's really happening, falling for the distortion and the deception of it. They all think Putin's a bad guy, he's a madman, blah, blah, blah. And that's the deception, right? Because we've always been against Russia. Russia's always been the big enemy, right? Like, everybody's always been feared of Russia. And you know, like, that's the thing I get. It's so interesting because the deception is they've lied about him, so everybody's falling for that deceit, right? And then they've distorted what's really happening so that you don't see it. You don't see it for what it is. Even if you get through the deception, you don't really see it clearly because, right? So you can get your way around the deception. You're still all this. Remember that old Mothers Against Drunk Driving commercial where they had glasses and they would put them one in front of the other and you couldn't see, and eventually 6 glasses later there was no vision hardly. That's
Right.
what we're seeing, constant deception to distort us away from the truth. I think it's interesting what's happening because so many people do not know anything about the Ukraine, and all of a sudden they're all up in arms about Russia.
I know, it's funny because there's one, I don't know what news station it was. They used footage that came from a video game, and the company threatened to sue them for copyright infringement. Like, it's like, what else do you need, people, to understand that they're all lying to you?
Well, and that's the thing. Now, I watched another one last night that was really interesting because they're talking about the deception and the distortion. And one of the things that they said was, we're all caught right now with blue and yellow, right? The blue and yellow flag. We've been conditioned. This video was awesome. I was like, holy frig. We've been conditioned for 2 years, blue and yellow, blue and yellow, blue and yellow, blue and yellow. Every friggin' vaccine sign is blue and yellow. Almost everything is blue and yellow.
Do you know why? Do you know why?
Power.
Yellow's the solar plexus. The blue is the cayenne, would be the throat. So I don't know. I did see something about those videos that they say everything is blue and yellow, but what are those two colors together? What is the energetic impact of those colors that they can fuel it up in a negative?
Well, first of all, you have your solar plexus, which is your power center, and your truth center, right? Your truth center, both of them, and they're separated from the heart.
Totally.
On either side of the heart, not moving through. If it was green, we'd be blue and yellow. That's what blue and yellow makes. It's so interesting, the distortion and the deception they're playing with here.
When you look at the 3rd level of demons, according to Harold Kautz, they're the Kraken. So he says what they do with the chakra is 1 and 7 is the Kundalini serpent, 2 and 6 is the spiders of Set, 3 and 5 is the Kraken. They all add up to 8, which 8 can be infinity, and it can be the number of the demonics. So it's interesting that you're saying that, but you're right. It separates the heart is what the point is with this one, right?
Just like you said, they've taken it and they've distorted it, right? Because they took all of our sacred symbols that were natural, good, and pure, and they made them bad. So pentagrams, they turned it upside down, right? Because it used to be, it's a symbol of spiritual continuity, okay? Like the spirit, the earth, all the elements. That's what a pentagram is, and that's the point. Like 5-pointed star is very empowering. It's important for us to note because it does bring us all together, right? It shows you that. Well, they turned that around. They totally turned that around. What's the other one? The 8, the Kabbalah, the yin yang, all of those things. They actually inverted them to become enclosed rather than open. So even the Kabbalah, right? Like the tree of life is actually supposed to go up so that it opens up into the infinity, not down into the ground. That's what they're doing. They're
spiraling down. Everybody's spiraling down. So you know the Merkaba star, this is a 3D version of it. So basically you've got the male triangle like this, and then you've got the female triangle. So it turns into the Star of David. So the Star of David, they've hijacked the male and female energy and made it about their country and about money. So many things have been distorted, and it's really important for us to come back and set the intention to understand some of these symbols. We can claim them again. If you look at us as human beings, 2 arms, 2 legs in our head, we're a 5-pointed star, so they don't want us seeing.
Cut an apple. It's one of the few fruits. It's one of the few ways in nature you can actually still see that. It's a 5-pointed star. Like It's everywhere. It's supposed to show us something, and they have literally distorted it. Another one I was going to say just a second ago was oh, it'll come back to me, but it was good too. But it's the same idea, right? Like they totally just enough to twist it, just enough.
So
Oh,
what I was thinking about too, I can't remember if I was talking to you about this. Look at the words that they use. I was thinking about the word heal, because we're not allowed to say you're a healer, because that's illegal in Ontario. You'll get your fingers slapped for for practicing medicine. So I thought that was pretty funny, right? But my point with the word heal, how words have dual meanings. Then I think the other word is heal, stay put, don't move, as if we're all slaves and we have to heal to somebody else's direction, right? That's just,
to their command. Command
yeah.
is everything. If we're not in command of ourselves, someone's running our show.
Somebody is going to be.
So that's interesting. And you must have picked up on that vibe, because that was what I was actually kind of trying to remember, was about words. We talked about spells that they used and how they friggin' messed our words up so that they don't even mean the same things anymore. Here's one, the C word. Did she just say that? Not out loud, I did. The rest of it's in there. But you know, the original meaning of that word actually is the root word comes from country. And the first meaning of that word particularly was she who births a nation. And what do? They use it in a degradation way against us, right?
And
they
you know, I'm guilty of using that word sometimes too.
They took the power and they turned it around against us. You see how they did that? So that word became a bad word. And I mean, I'm not on it. Like, to be honest with you, I used to really hate it. It was one of those words that, like, I honestly would lunge at you if you called me that. And I've been called it before, like, trust me. But when I learned that, I was like, and I sat with it for a while. And I'm like, you know what? That makes so much damn sense. That's exactly what they do, right? They turn everything against us. And that's what they've done with that too. So they've turned our whole world inside out. We have to find that. We have to figure that out and come back.
And we do have to come back. And my view on that right now, especially for the people who only speak English as your only language, that you come back with it with your emotions. You radiate your feelings. And at some point, I think we're gonna stop the verbal communication and just be able to share with our own intentions and with our heart what we're trying to convey. I read a book. I know I've said this before. John Diamond's Your Body Doesn't Lie. And I watched one of his videos recently, and he's talking about the thymus as the original third eye. He goes, but they wouldn't let me publish that in my book. They made me take it out. So even back in the 60s, they were monitoring and censoring information. Like, do we ever get tired of these people being just fucking with us? We don't need these people. We don't need any of them anymore. And I'm not saying we don't need a doctor for certain accidents or, you know, for certain things, but we don't need the doctors. You look at the diabetes number. Oh. What do they do with that? They lower it so more people are on medication. Like, when do you stop trusting somebody who's done nothing but lie to you all your life?
Here's something. You know what? This is interesting. And I know somebody, this is how it works though. They get paid, they get cuts, they get kickbacks, whatever. Every doctor gets something from every prescription they friggin' write. I'm telling you, I truly believe that. I don't know if it's true, but I can tell you.
They're the only ones who don't have conflict of interest laws. Every other industry has it, but the medical industry.
Well, they certainly don't need no integrity at this point, because I mean, you open their cupboards and they're getting bonuses and stuff for any new pill they can push on you and stuff, right? Golf trips, whatever the hell it is, they're being paid handsomely.
Yeah.
So I know somebody who was diagnosed with diabetes a number of years ago, and within that first okay, well, we got to put you on metformin, first of all, metformin, which on the western side here, on the northern hemisphere, everybody who has diabetes ends up on metformin. They do not prescribe this in Europe. You can't find metformin over there because they know it fucking kills people. Long-term use kills people. They shove you on it with diabetes and they keep you on it for the rest of your fucking life. They know they're killing you. That's okay.
They know, that's the big thing.
Okay, so but metformin first. Then, because of the diabetic issue and their blood cholesterol, it was high, they put them on Crestor. Then they added Coversil, which helps maintain. So now we're on metformin, Coversil, and the other one. What the hell was that? What did I just say? Crestor. Okay. Then, because of the way that works, you got to pee more. You'll be wanting to drink more water. So you're going to have to pee more. And in order to pee out the sugar more, you got to take this pill to balance you out. So now they're on 4 for the one issue. Then she sits there and the doctor says to this person, there's another new medication out and we figure it goes well with these ones. Well, maybe we should put you on that too. And I'm like, well, for what? High blood pressure. Well, he doesn't have high blood pressure. Well, this actually works on the kidneys because the number 3 medication we prescribe now is hard on the kidneys. So this one now comes in to combat what the kidneys are being developed. I'm like 5 medications for one thing. Why not teach the man how to eat properly? They don't push the nutritionist on him. They don't push anything else on him. They just push this shit. 5 fucking medications for diabetic issue.
You wonder how much room they leave for meals if they have all that medication. Like, how much does that take up in space? Like, do you have room for dinner? Do you have room for lunch? You know?
The guy's 50 years old. He's 50 and he's on 6 medications because he has another issue he has to deal with. And I'm like, at what point do they help you get off this shit?
They don't want you off this shit. At some point, when do you ask that this is the only solution they have? Why are they not able to forward think to realize this isn't good for people? They can't, they're not capable of future pacing empirical evidence, so they can never get ahead of a problem. So I knew a woman, she had breast cancer. Guess what they put her on for a trial medication for 5 years? Metformin. I go, that's a diabetic medication. She goes, well, they only want me to do it for 5 years. And I'm like, so like people have a responsibility to not get duped as well. But the people in the industries, they have a responsibility to stop hurting people. And then, so you know, on Telegram, A1's channel, he was posting about some stuff. What do? Go and arrest him and throw him in jail. So now, and I don't think he's getting a bail. I don't think anything's coming his way for bail. So he's in jail. What about his mortgage? What about his house? Does he have any pets at home? What about his bills? Does anybody care in the system? So then, you know, the International Association of Chiefs of Police, I think I've talked to you about this. They passed, let's see how quickly I can find this. They passed an endorsement. Where are we, Sandy? They passed an endorsement that allows them to lock people up.
Oh, yeah.
For 6 months, no questions asked. Where the heck did I just put that?
Where the hell are we living?
What's that?
Where the hell are we living? This isn't the free world. Crazy.
Okay, here we go. Hang on. So this is what they endorsed in 2014. So whereas law enforcement now, they can, they're having problem with people with mental health issues. You think maybe you got mental health issues because they're trying to kill you and you know it. And no matter what you do to stand up for yourself, they put something in your way. They'll call your employer. They have your email address. They know who your telcos are. They know everything, right? But a 2014 report found that 10 times more mentally ill persons are in prisons and jails than receiving treatment in state psychiatric hospitals. What's the difference between the two? The more than 2 decades of research and practice document AOT as the effective tool to improve outcomes for the focus population, including reduced hospitalizations, arrests, incarcerations, crime, victimization, and violence, while increasing treatment adherence, and substance abuse treatment outcomes. So you look at this and basically, so I was discussing my friend, you know, she's writing the chief of police, prove to me that you have the right to have to steal my daughter. But then the chiefs of police sign this on that they can lock her up for 6 months. No questions asked, because we're doing it for your best interest. I can't wait for the system to fall. Right? For your safety, because we saw by the conspiracy chart, you're a danger to yourself and others. You know, like this is the mocking. They mock us. And when you stand up for yourself, they turn around and label you. And we've flirted with these conversations before quite a bit, right? So this fellow who's in jail, who's going to pay his mortgage? He's a single man. Who's going to pay his bills? Is he going to lose his house for 6 months because nobody knows where he is? This is these bitches who work. This is York Region. So York Region has some of the highest crime and human trafficking of children. The other one's Peel Region. Like, when do we just start asking, what else makes sense except they're in on it? They're all in on it. What else makes sense? Nothing. My opinion.
It's true.
Right.
And they talk about, you know, even the mayor of Barrie and stuff like that, knowing things and doing things and being outed about things. Nobody does anything about it.
And none of them will. And even the cops who are good, they don't have the guts or the balls to go after anybody in their own, what do you call it, their own detachment or their own industry. So this woman, Pam, I'm talking about, she said she reached out to the special investigations unit that will investigate the police. And I'm like, they're not going to do any, like, they're not going to do that. They all investigate their own. She goes, I still have to show that I've reached out to everybody. And I'm like, okay, I see why she's doing it, but everybody in the system is designed to protect the system. Why are we paying for these people's salary? So where's Trudeau right now? He's in Europe. I don't know if he's in Scotland or where he is. So he couldn't face the truckers. Now he's out of the country. It's like, why are we paying these people? Do you know the chief of police of Ottawa made the same amount of money as Trudeau? Trudeau gave himself, this is before he gave himself a $21,000 raise this year. He's scheduled to give the prime minister a $21,000 raise this year. They made $360,000. Who are we freaking kidding? To do what? Put the people into the ground? No thanks. So it's just interesting times, just with all the deception, all the inversion, but it's interesting watching people. One thing I'm saying out there in some of my social media channels, stay centered, stay focused, stay above it, watch it from a bird's eye view. Watch the players, see how fast they rotate people out of certain positions and put somebody else in. So they do that so nobody's responsible. What's that?
Right? How fast the plots and the storylines are changing. You got to keep up with what scene everybody's playing in right now. It's not easy.
Yeah, I don't keep up with everything. I trust certain people that they're looking at certain things. So I'll go in and check and see what they are writing about or what they're commenting about or what their videos are about. You still use discernment with them because nobody has everything right 100% of the time because we don't know all the whole game, but it's just still using that discernment. So if I want to know what's going on with certain individuals or certain storylines, I'll go and listen to one person and see what they have to say. I might listen to other ones, but I'm not attached to any outcome either. We're just not going back to the shit show. You know, what's really interesting with all these people who are stealing money, what they have not figured out yet, we are going to a blockchain or we're going to a crypto of some sort, whatever that's going to be, doesn't matter. We have to go to something that's accountable. But when they try to repatriate their dollars with this new currency that's coming in, if you made 100,000 a year and all of a sudden you've got a $5 million home, where'd you get the money? We're going to start asking some serious questions because they're going to have to justify, oh, did you all have a rich uncle that died and left you money? Show us. So it's going to be funny watching people try to repatriate the money. So even the ones who've ripped off the system already, you're not getting it back. You're not going to get it like going forward. We're not going to just let you take it and put it inside your little account, your wallet, and call it even. No way.
No. So that actually brings me to an interesting point because I want to talk about this a little bit too. You know, that guy in jail, they want his house. They want his house. The whole goal is by 2030, they own everything, we own nothing, and we'll all be happy with it, right? That's so
good.
And here in Ontario, our real estate market went through the freaking roof. It is so ridiculous. The price of houses here in Ontario, I cannot even begin to tell people. Like, it's almost embarrassing. It's almost embarrassing. I'm like, they're not even worth that. Yeah, what the hell?
It's not real.
The banks are carrying these mortgages, right? The banks are owned by the government, so they own the houses. They're basically giving everybody all these mortgages because you need, granted, you need about 10% down, right? So on average here in Ontario, you're not buying a brand new home for less than 600,000. Period. I don't care where you are. I don't think it. I see some of them going up for 1.3 million. They're friggin' semi-detached. What the hell? So, right? Like, seriously. So the idea though is that they're going to own everything, right? So they're selling out all these houses to people who are coming up with 10% down on $1 million house. I don't know how they're doing it, but whatever. They're giving, I mean, and really, when you think about it, what is that? 100 grand just to put a deposit down on something? So the point is that the banks are owning all of this stuff. Everybody's in debt up to their friggin' eyeballs and beyond, and they're not getting anywhere, right? The whole point was to keep everybody running in debt constantly, right? Trying to earn a living, trying to make a wage, doing all of this stuff. They already own everybody's house. And that's their deal. They don't care if anybody has a job or not, or if they're paying their bills or not, because they own the houses anyway. It's in your name for now, but that's just a matter of time.
Not in your name. But it's in capital letters, so it's admiralty law. So you don't own your home. The government owns your home. The municipalities own it. It's not even the banks. I think it's municipalities that technically own it, but the banks give you the illusion of owning it if you've got your house paid for. or if you have a mortgage on it, that you somehow own this asset. If you look at what it cost of building a house is, I don't know how much it is a square foot right now, but you look at the cost of a parcel of land, put the services in, and put a house on it, with the cost of a square foot of a house right now, there's no way they're worth $1 million. So people, it's like everything else. They get this pie in the sky number that they've got $1 million home. No, you don't. Right. So things have to change. That's interesting what you said about taking his house, because I think I'm going to have to go a little later and go hammer on the person who took over his account. And because I'm sure the police are watching this account, this guy's account, right?
They're going to roll out in the next 2 or 3 months, I think it is. It's scheduled that they're going to roll out an opportunity for debt forgiveness. And in that debt forgiveness, they're going to say, oh, anything you owe, we'll forgive it. If you haven't had your booster yet, go get it. If you haven't had your shot at all yet, go get them, all 5 before you're even fully vaccinated now. All of that shit, right? Like, it's basically, they're just ploys. It's all just ploys. And in the next few months, they're, according to the plan that I saw, anyway, the paper that I saw, digital ID, all of that stuff, right? They're doing away with the stickers on our cars and stuff like that. Like, they really are just trying to get their claws on everything, and we have nothing.
That's what they're trying to do, but we're not falling for that.
No,
some people are going to fall for it. Let them fall for it.
Yeah, because you know what? Oh, like, I don't want to have to pay my mortgage anymore. Oh my God, the government's going to pay off my house for me. Well, who the fuck do you think is going to own it then? Because it ain't you, right?
So,
like, seriously.
So it's interesting though. So I look at that and say, no, it's their fault. It's the bank's fault. It's the government's fault. It's the politician's fault. It's not the person who has not been trained. It's their responsibility to figure this out. There's no doubt about that. But it's not their fault, because nobody is trained about money. No one's trained about nutrition. Nobody's trained about wellness. No one's trained about emotions. People aren't shown what love is. So basically, we've got a society that has done nothing for 12 years but dumb people down. And we talk about this a lot. But as some are going to wake up and some aren't. But what the problem is going to be when people wake up, and this is what I've noticed, even when you start doing a spiritual and emotional clearing, your body, sometimes your mind can't accept what you just cleared or what you are learning about. So it puts you to sleep. You know how after you clear a session, you clear somebody, or like when you were getting clear, when you were learning how to do this, I would go and lay on the couch for an hour. So my subconscious mind would take in what it is I learned. So it doesn't mean it was just a clearing of a traumatic event or anything like that, but sometimes it's learning information that you're like, what? And so you have to go to sleep. Do you know how many people, when the truth comes out, I hope they're not behind the wheel, because they're going to go to sleep. They're just going to pass out. They won't be able to handle it. So I see a lot of possible things that are going to happen. And when we come into our higher consciousness, we've talked about this, we can turn this around and not stop accepting it. So here's the thing about sending people love. So this woman I'm talking about, Pam, she came out on social media last night after the police came to her door, and she did a 10-minute video. And I just happened to wake up about half an hour after she posted it, and I started posting it. Everybody's sending her love, lots of love and good thoughts. Why don't you send the pricks who came to her door? Accountability, decency. So we always focus on the victim, whether it's good or bad. So in your example of the house, we focus on the victim. Why don't we focus on the bankers? You're too fucking stupid. How many people work in the bank don't even understand they're fucking people? They don't know because they're too stupid. Why don't we focus on them? Why don't we focus our attention on the ugly, and not with an intention of causing them ill, but just saying no more. You talked about this with Trudeau. You had a dream about Trudeau. You told him enough. So this is kind of funny how conditioned we all are. Pam doesn't need love and light. She needs somebody to help her get her daughter back. Oh, but I want to give you this. You want to give her that because you don't want to get involved. So there's accountability going to come right across the board for all of us. And the people who talk a good game, they're going to come out that they're just snowflakes, because that's all they do is talk a good game. And not everybody wants to come out hitting. So this guy who took over AI's account, you know what I'm like, blah, 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 blah. I just get the keyboard a clicking and just give them hell, right? But we don't know if this person's a cop or whatever, but you don't believe the people on this account giving him hell. You're going to keep getting hell until A1 comes back. Right? So it's just interesting about accountability. So we're always saying to the people, oh, you should have fallen for this. No, the people who created the system and work in the system are responsible for this mess. Can't wait for it all to come down. What's going to happen when they get red pilled? Are they going to be able to handle it? Do you have empathy and sympathy for people who really kept you imprisoned all this time because they had a good paycheck? Look at the sunshine list. How many people are over $100,000 paycheck that work in government in Ontario? Too many.
Oh, there's tons.
I know a guy, I don't even know if he had high school education. He was a janitor at Darlington or Pickering nuclear plant. He was a janitor. He swept the floors and made over $100,000. It's all just make believe money. So we're hoping to see this fall apart sooner than later. And you're right. The darkness is going to come. They're going to pull a lot of stunts on people. But what do you do? They say this new what's it called? Marburg, the new virus, Marburg. They're saying some pretty nasty side effects. So we're going to start seeing things that are going to be really disgusting. And you were talking earlier about seeing some drag queen walking down the street. And do you want to share that story? Because this is so important, because they're going to start messing with our psyche. And if we take in everything they say and take it to heart and we're upset about it, you're just going to drain your emotions and your nervous system. You want to go ahead?
So I'm not listen, I'm from downtown Toronto. Originally, I'm from Scarborough, very diverse area. Then I moved to downtown Toronto, whatever else, and in between and stuff. And so I'm barely, like I used to hang out in bars and stuff like that. And there used to be a bar in Toronto called the Lizard Lounge, right? You could find all kinds of trannies. Back then, it was just trannies, right? They were just transvestites. That's what they were. They were just drags, transvestic, whatever. But I'm watching this video, and I mean, you get used to stuff like that. There's certain things you can handle because it's just like, okay, whatever, right? Like we got one here in Uxbridge, 20 minutes down. Terry the Fairy, they call me. Wanders around in friggin' sequins, mini skirts, and high heels and shit. Like, I mean, everybody knows him. Anyway, this video, I was like, oh my God, this guy, he's wearing some god awful wig looking. I mean, it's one thing. It's shock and awe. They want to shock and awe. That's all they want, right?
This is hilarious because you're seasoned and it still shocked you through you.
Yeah. Oh no, I just couldn't believe it. I was just like, and I mean, I'm telling, I have seen, I've been. Anyway, okay, so he's got a beard and his face is, I don't know if it's painted or tattooed or whatever it is, but it's got stuff. Like he's got like lots of stuff there. So that's right away that takes you aback, right? Because you're like, what the hell? And then he's walking around in a friggin' a dress, looks like a prom dress, and he's got like it's tulle, like organza and shit at the bottom there, and he's wandering around. Now here's the thing. He says he's it starts with him saying he's a transgender man who's just got a period, and he cannot tell you how disturbing or how awful or how horrible it is or whatever it was. And I'm thinking to myself, first of all, if you can't manage one, really? We bleed 7 days of the fucking month and we don't die, and you're cramped up about this? Like, give me a break. Anyway, that in and of itself. But I'm thinking to myself, first of all, what kind of period is this man having? What did they do? Stuff a uterus in him? They cut off everything else and stuff the uterus up there and made it work? Like, that doesn't fucking work. Anyway, but he's wandering around. I'll get back to it. Wandering around, asking people for Midol, and at the same time, he's actually telling people that he has blood coming down his legs. Okay, so he's bleeding. He doesn't bother to put anything on. Anyway, so if you're new at being a woman, there's something called Kotex. Anyway,
hey, and they're free. Your government will give them to you for free now because it's so important. Right? It's equal opportunity. Right?
And what kills me about that is that's something that's always been taxed. So if it's a friggin' necessity, why are you taxing my tampons? Anyway, it's not a luxury, I can tell you that. So he's wandering around, and people, first he comes up to two young women on the grass. And of course, obviously they can see that he's bleeding, and they're looking at him. They're like, oh my God. And they get up and they're running away from him. They're like, are you dying or something? He's like, I just want some Midol. And he goes around.
He could be an actor too, right?
Oh, even if, what the twisted is that? Oh,
you know what? Sometimes the more outrageous you get in response back, or you just laugh at them back.
Right? It's like Marilyn.
But you don't need Midol. If you're bleeding to that amount, you'll be dead before you need a Midol to kick in. Like,
just keep walking. Walk it off. That's what my gym teacher used to tell me. Walk it off. Torpedo Tits Robertson was such a woman, I tell you. We all knew her, right? We knew her. She was the one. Walk it off. Pull your socks up. Walk it off, woman. Okay. The court, we need you. Anyway.
So we are going to see crazier and crazier things. And the idea is not to get outraged. That's a fine line. Hang on, that's a fine line. It's okay to be angry, but do it in such a way that you don't lose your center. You can be angry by what you hear and what you see. Don't let it take you out of your center, because the darkness can attach to you, or people can manipulate you. They can see what your weakness is and what your hot button is. So it's okay to be angry. It's not okay to do a drive-by. Even better than anger is pride, but the real pride about how amazing you are as an individual. And above that is courage.
So that
have the courage.
Go ahead.
Have the courage to go through what we're going through, see the insanity, decide if you want to mock it and have a good laugh at it, or if you just, like you said, walk it off, buddy. You know, you'll be dead before your might all will kick in, and just say something just outrageous back to them. It depends on your personality. If you feel comfortable doing that, or you just walk away. Don't give it any attention, because you don't. How many of these people are crisis actors? I think a lot of them.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm starting to think.
Right? Absolutely.
So is there anything else you want to add, or should we leave it there? So all the mocking and the deception, this is when they're tormenting and torturing young children. We've heard about Hillary laughing at a little girl after she filleted the little girl's face and put the face on herself to mock the child. This is what evil looks like. This is the cruelty that's involved of causing another person a pain or a suffering and laughing at them. So we want to make sure that people just understand this is the intention behind the evil that's going on. Somebody not wearing a mask is not a problem. If you got your mask on and you got your jab, walk your talk, or walk it off, and make sure that like you've got your stuff. So what do you care if somebody else doesn't? That's not what the evil is. Somebody not wearing one. The evil is laughing at people you're hurting. The evil is knowing you're doing something to somebody that's going to cause them to be at a disadvantage or at a loss or experience a hardship. That's the evil in the world. And it's really interesting.
They feel justified in it because they think we're stupid. We're less than.
Some of them can't. They think we're less than them, right? So that's what they're trained in these institutions. The doctors, the patients are stupid. Mental health, the patients, you don't know what I know, because they make up their own vocabulary. All these occupations have their own vocabulary. I've said this before about police services. They call people who have been traumatized EDPs, emotionally disturbed people. You arrogant little shits. Why aren't they not asking why they're not being taught about trauma-based and pain and suffering and different ways people cope when they go to police academy? What's the curriculums that they don't even teach this stuff about the emotional pain and suffering, but they'll give you a ticket, no problem.
So I think that because they have to do certain things, they do have small cells within the police departments and groups and organizations that are there's very little known about them, and they're not, unless you're actually aware in some way or directed that way, you don't know. But there's victims of crime units and things like that, and these generally police officers who go out and help you through the trauma. And while I know most of them are probably.
I'm shaking my head because they're trained by the same Rothschild's institutions. So
Absolutely.
The police will say to victims, "What were you wearing? Calm down." And I've got some newspaper things I went through in 2015. I went through an old email and just started realizing all these things I had. They used to say to rape victims, "Just relax, just calm down," when they're taking their statement. Who would be so heartless to say that to somebody who's lost it and is devastated because they've just been sexually assaulted? I got something from Psychology Today that says 40% of people with mental illness are rape victims or attempted rape victims. Hey, but what do? We say mental illness, it makes you crazy, instead of saying that's a symptom of victimization. So these police are just as fucked up in these crime units because they're trained by the same group. I went to an organization that was called Ontario Sexual Assault Workers of Ontario. And after the presentation, I made a comment about babies, like off the Kinsey report, babies being able to orgasm from birth. And they all turned and looked at me. Like, this was an auditorium full of people. And I'm like, you don't even know that? What the fuck are we paying any of these people for? You ask any of them, what makes you qualified to know how to treat a person? What makes you qualified to know what somebody needs? What makes you qualified to be more human than somebody else? Maybe they're an atheist. Maybe they don't believe in your spiritual connection, but does that mean they're qualified to tell you how to be human? So we've got every industry out there in its current structure or design is trained by the Rothschilds. They own everything. And that's why the police fuck up and say, oh, walk away. If somebody tries to abuse you, just walk away. But they don't say we will punish the abuser, because they're all trained by the same dysfunction that run all these countries. So I'm just putting it out there because I really, same as blaming the banks. You don't think that maybe giving people too much money is going to be a problem for them to pay off their debts? So you're putting them into a position that they're going to fail if they don't have financial acumen or like any kind of financial knowledge. Like, what are they as an investor? Are they sophisticated? Do they have basic budgeting skills? Do they understand debt ratios? So who works in the banks trains on this? My car insurance went up last year and it's almost doubled. I call and I go, why is my insurance so much? Like I said, I'm driving less now than even with COVID that I was before. She looks at my account with all her sophistication and she was, just a minute, I'm looking up your account. She goes, well, you have the good driver discount and you have multiple things on this policy. So you have the multiple discount. And she goes, and you have the seniors discount. And I'm like, you bitch, you had to rub that in. And then she turns around and goes, oh, but everybody's on their cell phones. So, and they're having more accidents. So we have to put your insurance up. I'm like, are you even listening to what you just said? So people are stupid. So basically you got all the discounts, but we have to put it up because people are texting and driving. I'm like, put your cell phone back in your pocket, get the job, stop creating babies and your bloodline. You're too fucking stupid to be on the planet. Way to go, Brenda. Now I'm in a mood. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Let me leave you with this just to validate that stupid stuff. Jacques Attali, that's his name. Jacques Attali, back in 1981, wrote for the French prime minister, I guess it was, or president, or whatever the hell they have there. It's a, I don't know what you call it, thesis maybe or something. It's basically a paper called A Brief History of the Future. And it's gone viral. You can find it all over the place. I'll send you the link for it if you want, or I'll send you a little video of them reading it out. But basically, he talks about how it's the stupid that they're going to prey upon. They will convince the stupid that they are doing themselves a service and saving the world by walking themselves right into a slaughterhouse. They'll be so fucking stupid they won't even know they're doing it.
And that's what's happening with this COVID. Right? I have trouble feeling sorry for them. It's like you try to help people and it's just you have trouble feeling sorry for them. So there's amazing things that are coming. I'm very optimistic about what is happening. I'm working on a few things that I'm not going to share right now, but when it comes out, it's going to be a boom, boom, boom. I am so excited about some of these things that are happening, and we are taking matters into our own hands. And not that we're going to cause anybody a physical harm, but it's time that people who worked in the system own your shit. You've all been conned and we don't need you anymore. We are better off doing our own thing.
Was it Italy and Serbia, I believe? Two places now. I think Italy, it was one small county, but still, have restructured their government without politicians. Love
to see that. Do you have any information on that?
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
I'd love to see how they do that.
Just happened. It's coming. It's coming because people don't know how that happens. Well, how do we do that? Well, every fucking party is corrupt. I don't care who you are, where you are. And I don't care. I mean, there's some that talk a good talk. I get it. But, you know, keep digging because they're all in the same.
They're all in it. So this is interesting because the people are so stupid. If you get rid of the politicians, if you don't tell them and just keep doing what you're doing, they're not going to be able to catch on to what you're doing anyways. Just get it done. Let's just do it. And if they don't like it, they can cry about it afterwards. They can go to their politicians and cry about it afterwards. We're not interested, right? So there's a lot of good things that are happening too. I firmly believe that. And again, staying centered while all this mocking and the deception and the illusion, and ask yourself, what is true? Let go of the outcome.
And keep in mind, you know, they really do think we're stupid and they're preying and playing on that. So the idea though is that you got to watch what's going on over here, but keep your eyes over here too, right? You've got to see what's in the peripheral vision. I know I don't watch a lot of TV. There was a time when TV was on in my house all the time because I had little kids and stuff and I babysat and shit. So it was always cartoons and children's shows. That's different. But for myself, I always watched, you know, the stuff that is like, you know, ancient mysteries and, you know, all that kind of shit, right? Ancient aliens, all that stuff. Anyway, but if you watch, there's 3 channels in particular, History Channel, Discovery Channel, and something else. And I got to tell you, they red pill people all the time. Only for the simple fact that they figure people aren't really thinking it's real or true or believable, right? Like, so I've watched shows where they're really telling the truth. They are really telling the truth. They were talking about uploading your consciousness to USBs years ago. They've been doing it in the military forever. Things like that. And people are like, no, they're not doing that. Fuck off, they are. They've been doing it for years, right? You just don't know it because it's not your forte, right?
Or we don't see it. We don't see it in the world we live in because we're so limited.
Unless you have an in at NASA, how are you going to know what their secret projects are about, right? Like you're not.
And even NASA's alive, right? So it's just, it's interesting.
Because I'm not a carpenter and I don't hang out with them, so I don't know what they're doing in their world. Like it's all segmented, right? We're all in that
compartmentalized.
Space. Yeah, absolutely, and they are counting on that too. They're counting on that too. But it, you know what? It's amazing what's coming. We are ahead of the game. I was just talking to a client this morning and I said to her, you know, she goes, it's so hard to feel like we're winning. She goes, I look around, I don't see we're winning. I'm like, we're winning. Trust me. You know, when you're at that 24th mile in the 26-mile marathon, you don't feel like the finish line is there, and you sure shit don't realize how close you are to it because you're so exhausted. We're all there. I think a lot of us are there right now.
And I don't, I don't see that because there's so much work that has to be done on the ground. So I'm not doubting what I appreciate what you're saying. I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. I see it that no, this race is just getting started, because if the old falls away, then it's going to be more hopefully enjoyable to help create the new, but we're still going to be working. We're going to be busy for a while. That's what I see, but it doesn't mean it has to be tiring. When you get to the point that you're just going through, it doesn't matter if you're at the 24th mile of the 26-mile race, because you're pacing yourself.
That's right. And that's the thing, right? The idea, though, is that we recognize that patience is necessary, and patience really defines as calm endurance. Just stay the fuck calm and just keep enduring. So
not everybody, it's not for everybody though, because I know parents that they're taking their children from Family and Children's Services are stealing their children now. So it's not, so I don't try to put anything out there for like a blanket statement, because the darkness is still taking life and causing harm. So we still are in the race.
Yeah.
But it's not, we haven't turned the bend yet, but I have a feeling good things are coming. I really do. And I'm optimistic, but in the meantime, let's get at her, pitter patter. Right? Oh,
it's a hell of a mess we have to clean up. It sure shit is, but we are getting somewhere. And I think we need to know that. And I think people need to, and when I say calm endurance, and I don't mean everybody, clearly not everybody is able to hold that. Okay. Like I get that, because I can't hold it half the time. Half the time I'm flipping shit and wanting to lose my on everybody, because it is hard, right? It's like, oh my God, really? But we have to keep optimistic, grounded, yeah. And we have to keep
optimistic. We know there's going to be good things coming, but at the same time, can we go and hold people accountable for their behaviors? And I think yes. Zelensky, is that the guy with the beard? Is that his name, Zelensky? Yes, I think
so. There's two Zelenskys, right?
I thought one was Zelensky. I think it's Zelensky. No. Anyways, he's the one with the big beard. So he's coming out now and saying anybody who's part of this job, you should be tried and executed. Like there's no mincing words. It's on Facebook. You should be tried and executed. And I agree. I don't care if you're the stupid one who works at the station, like the shot stations, and you poked what, 500 people in the last year? If those people were harmed, should you be held liable? Yes, it's your responsibility to know what you're putting into somebody else. So it was just kind of interesting that people are not taking prisoners.
So that's interesting. So that's why I was going with the whole, you never know what you're going to see on TV, because last night I watched a show on what happened to Benito Mussolini. And all I could think of was how very timely for you guys to air this particular program, right? They just recently been showing shit on MK Ultra and mind control, mass psychosis, stuff like that. They're telling everybody what they're doing right here, but you're eating pizza and not paying attention.
Yeah.
But I get that, right? It's exactly where we are. So that's the whole point, is we have to really be
multifaceted, multitasking, see what's going on, but still keep yourself grounded enough to be able to do what you need to do, but still observe, but not get emotionally distraught. And if you still haven't healed and cleaned out your emotions and your any kind of traumatic response to something, it doesn't even have to be traumatic in general. Maybe it was just traumatic for you. And I can think of a few examples where people had a life experience. Other people might not have thought it was a bad thing, but for them it was. So there's no shame in it. But if it causes you any kind of angst, it's okay to clear it. You don't need it anymore, right? So we're going to put our, maybe it's a great place to leave it today. So Brenda and I will put our links and where you can contact us in the description box. So by any means, if you guys want to reach out, we love your comments. We love your feedback. If you're finding this helpful, please like and subscribe and share these videos. And we're going to keep trying to go as long as we can on the Fridays. And we hope you guys are finding this helpful and informative and timely for what we're all facing at this time. So have a good one, everybody.
Have a good one. Bye,
Bye-bye.
guys.